Hello, Rebecca. Let's talk all about endometriosis.
Mm.
Now, endometriosis is a hormonal imbalance that you are seeing a lot of in clinic, but it isn't just an estrogen dominant condition. It's like a full body effect. Tell me more about it and tell me how it affects women and what you're seeing women really plagued with that are coming to see you.
Well, obviously, there are the key symptoms, which is really heavy menstrual bleeding and extreme, and I mean excruciatingly extreme pain that these women are suffering from. So they're like the most obvious symptoms that most people associate, that are aware of endometriosis, that associate with that. But what many women don't really understand is the vast majority of other symptoms that can also come with that. So abdominal bloating, abdominal pains at any time throughout the month can be an issue. Urinary issues, sort of urgency to go to the toilet or pain when going to the toilet for either a bowel or passing urine can be an issue. Fatigue is a massive one. This is such a big inflammatory condition that a lot of women sort of struggling with it are exhausted all of the time. And obviously from hormonal side of things, infertility can be a major issue as well, struggling. So it really is a whole body disease. It doesn't just affect your menstrual period.
And when we think about the impact of that inflammation, so endometriosis is sort of sitting on a bit of a line over, is this an autoimmune condition or is this a localized inflammatory condition? But we do see a lot of women with endometriosis with other autoimmune diseases, don't we? So they might have rheumatoid arthritis and endometriosis, or Crohn's disease and endometriosis. So when you're seeing that inflammation, whether it's one area or more than one area, what can be done? Because from a medical point of view, you know, they might do procedures, they might use a coil, they might put somebody, go as far as hysterectomy. But what can be done through the eyes of nutritional therapists to support an individual with an endometriosis diagnosis?
So I like to describe inflammation to my clients as like a fire in the body, but we don't necessarily know what is driving that fire. And so our job is to understand where that fire is coming from and what area of your health we need to support. So we're looking for those imbalances. So really what I tend to start with is looking at the health of that client's gut, because so many clients with endometriosis also have issues with digestion, constipation, bowel urgency, pain throughout the whole month, etc. So there's a variety of different issues going on with their digestion and their gut health that I want to look at. So I look at doing stool testing to see what their balance of their bacteria might be and whether that might be driving any inflammation. So little fires coming in that way. But one biggie is food intolerances. So we describe them as food antigens, something that is triggering that immune response. So I look into that as well in terms of what is in their diet that might be driving these fires, that is then worsening the endometriosis, which is being fed by the hormones to fan those flames. So it's always about going back down the line and seeing what is that first effect that is driving that immune response and making it worse. And usually the gut endometriosis perspective, they can sort of make each other worse. So always looking at diet. My favorite question is, which foods would you find the hardest to give up? Because that tends to give us the biggest clue as to, unfortunately, which ones are the worst for us. So if you're really craving pizza or cheese or something like that, then we think about, well, what is in that food that is having the issue? And unfortunately, gluten and dairy are the two biggest culprits when it
Top of the
comes.
list, the ones that people are eating 2, 3, 4 times a day, every single day.
Exactly. And I was one of those clients, so I can really sympathize with my clients, because I could get through 8 slices of bread a day, no problems, before I trained to be a nutritional therapist. So I know how difficult it can be to make these changes, but the impact and the effects can be profound for a lot of clients. However, on the other hand, some clients will say, well, I tried to give up gluten or tried to give up dairy, it didn't really make any difference. So what we then need to dig around that area is, well, did you give it up 100%?
Yeah.
And once you have cut it out 100%, that becomes your day one. So you can't cut down and think that that is the start of the process. You have to eliminate it completely. That's your day one. And then ideally, I like to see my clients continue with that for at least 12 weeks. It does sound a long time, but that gives the body time to respond, for the immune system to calm down a little bit, for us to get a really true picture as to whether or not that is having any drivers or burning those little fires that are contributing to your symptoms.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And then is there anything else that can make this journey more complicated, like external factors like stress or other hormonal imbalance, like if the individual also has hypothyroidism at the same time?
I don't think we've had a single live where we haven't talked about stress.
I'm not going to break it now, so let's go for
it. A massive factor. And it's so hard to deal with because of the nature of many busy women's lives. Stress is just a massive factor. And we can help in terms of that physical perspective and the imbalances that stress may be affecting, but we can't step in and, you know, look after your kids or tidy the house for you and all those extra duties that we're doing on top of everything else that can contribute to our stress. So yeah, that is one big massive cofactor. But as we mentioned at the beginning, if you are hand in hand with other immune dysfunctions or other autoimmune diseases, thyroid autoimmunity is a common one as well. So that can drive further fatigue. And if you're tired, it's really difficult to make big changes like cutting out gluten, for example. So what we do is help with that step-by-step process. I don't say to my clients, right, tomorrow, that's it, no more gluten. It is a really slow process that's adapted to each client. So if their fatigue is high, then their motivation is likely to be low. So depending on what else that client is dealing with in terms of their health, we have to adapt our plan to support that.
So I think what's really important for our listeners to hear is it is about digging down deep, and it's about finding understandings beyond what the diagnosis is, because that diagnosis will come from a medical doctor. That's not our job. What our job is to look at is the root cause. So it's finding out what all of those root causes are. It's about taking it step by step, but it's about putting out the fire at whatever level that means for the client that is igniting that fire. Is there anything else you want to add to the take homes tonight?
For my endo clients in particular, one of the biggest issues is actually even getting that diagnosis. And then once they've got that, then what happens then? Where do they go? And the amount of desperation I see in this specific group of clients is so high. So I would definitely say there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is support out there, and hopefully awareness is becoming more increased. So in terms of take homes, if you can't afford to work with a private practitioner, then obviously think about the gluten and dairy. It is hard, etc. Think about getting extra self-care and support in your day-to-day life, handing over a bit of that burden, etc. But also think about the color in your diet and getting those anti-inflammatory foods. So fish, oils, nuts and seeds, they're really powerful anti-inflammatories in their own right. Ginger is a really great one as well. So adding those little bits and pieces to your diet can help support putting down those fires if we haven't yet identified where they're coming from. And also a really simple one, and again, I probably haven't had a single live not talking about this as well, but vitamin D. It's so important, particularly for the anti-inflammatory immune calming response that it has. So GPs are reluctant to test that nowadays, but it's affordable at £30 just to test your vitamin D with a finger prick test online. And you know, optimally we want it to be at least in the range of 70 to 100. If yours is below that, then seek advice on getting supplements and getting your levels up. It's simple.
Amazing. So that's a simple and cheap way to at least start one of those tick boxes going and get you in that anti-inflammatory immune modulating parameters, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So little steps in reducing that burden.
Amazing. Rebecca's given us so much to work on. For those of you that aren't yet ready to work with a practitioner, what maybe you can think about at home. For those of you that may be ready to make that next step into what to look for. And if you're listening and you're not affected by endometriosis, but you know somebody who is, please do share this with them, because Rebecca's given so many take homes for everybody. Thank you for your time, Rebecca. And thank you to all of our listeners. Take care for now.